All right, let's go through these statements and you were to identify where it tells you what needs to be done. I'm not very good with my English, by the way, but does anyone know what that would be called in English if it's like you're being told what to do?
Commanded?
What's it?
Like being commanded?
Big. Is there a word though, like I kind of know about nouns and adjectives? Is there anything that, like saying do this? Is there anything? I'm not.
A request?
Bossy.
Narrative. I can't tell you if you're right or wrong. I'm asking whether you know of anything. I don't know. Command term. What about? I've got in my head verbs. What are verbs?
Teaching.
They're an action word, sort of.
Making. Telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not for speech.
No, doesn't.
It's
They
not
have not got anything linked in that way. No. So I'm kind of like, I maybe I get the command term. You're being told what to do. Yeah. You're being told this is what we want to be done with these numbers. So the first one is, well, you tell me. I think you've all been through and you've highlighted it. You've checked. So what are you being told to do?
Subtract.
So the word is find the difference. Okay. So what mathematical symbol do we have for the difference? A subtraction sign. So finding the difference. All right. So we can write this in a mathematical way and say we've got the difference of 10 and 5 would be 10 subtract 5. All right. So I've written an expression here. I've not told what the answer will be to that. I've not told me what the difference of 10 and 5 is. I've just communicated it using a different form. Does that make sense? All right. So we went through last time what the quotient of. We'd had quotient last time. So did you all pick out the quotient one? All right. What does finding the quotient mean? Divide. So what's the quotient of 14 and 7 then?
2.
But how would I write it? Sorry, my bad.
14 over 7.
14 divided by 7. Quotient of 14.
If you write it differently, what if you roll?
What do you mean by differently?
Like, if you do like the 7 on the inside and then the thing like that. I mean the 14. No. Actually, like what if you just put 7 divided by 14? Would that be wrong?
So 7 divided by 14. Okay, well, it's a good question, isn't it? Which one?
No, not
Why?
like that. Because
Oh,
like this, like across.
14 divided by 7, like that.
Yeah, would that be wrong?
What do you reckon, guys? What do you think? So this one, are you happy it's not that one?
Yeah.
Can you give me a reason for that first?
I think because of the way it was listed as 14 to 7 and not 7.
Well, I like what you said then. What did he make reference to there? Say it again. The way it's written as.
The way it was written as 14 to 7 instead of 7 to 14.
So what did you use your knowledge of?
The number that
What did
goes
we
first.
do beforehand? What topic did we study that you've kind of used some knowledge of there? What did you say again? Say it again, because it's 14
to 7 fractions.
was fractal, but we did something else. We worked on what was our first topic dealing with it. Ratios, wasn't it? He said it. Do you remember ratios have to be written a certain way? Yeah? So does it make sense that if we say the quotient of 14 and 7, that we should put the 14 divided by the 7 and not the 7 divided by the 14? Do they give different answers?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can, let's say it's not going to be that one because I think like Jai said, the quotient of 14 and 7, we would assume that the 14 is being divided by the 7, right? What about this notation? We got any problems with that? John?
Because I know that in algebra,
So a division, yeah, we do often see it like this, don't we? But do you know what the division sign itself represents?
I just realized that the two numbers and the line in the middle dividing it. That's why it's at
The
because
numbers
Yeah.
represent the dots.
Yeah, there you go. So that's why a fraction we replace the dots with. So that's why we've got that. So does it matter at the moment? Maybe not. But as you get better at your maths, as you get older and more experienced, you'll start always writing your division like this. It's much more useful when we're communicating. Okay, so we get the idea. Do you get the idea about writing out our expression using our mathematical symbols rather than the words? Got that, yeah? Can I get you to go through the rest of them then? Yourself. All right. Actually, just write down the expressions. So rather than waiting for me and talking about them, can you go with what you think they should be? Yeah? A few interesting ones. I'm interested to see what decisions you've made. All right. So U has been decreased by 17. What have you got, Luke? U minus 17. Okay, are we all happy with that?
Yes.
Right. What is the command in this one? Half of 14. This one for me is really interesting. And often we ignore one side of it, and as we get older, we aren't aware. Eden, what's the thing?
Division.
What's the word, though, in it
Half.
before? Half. Well, remember I said, can you highlight what you have to do, not the numbers? All right. So there are two ways of looking at this. There are two ways of looking at this. Right. I am going to do it to start with, the way that you've probably done it. All right. So you're looking at it as half. Yeah. Half of something. Yeah. And halving something is when you do what?
You divide.
By?
2.
Okay. Half is divided by 2. So we would write half of 14, you would actually write as
7
14,
over 7.
no, divide by 2.
Oh, so the other way around.
Okay? You know the answer is 7, so 14 divided by 2. Yes.
Question, why would you put the 14 on top if it says half?
Because it's what's half of?
2.
Okay, so how do I get a half of something? I divide it by 2, don't I? How do you get half of a cake? You take the cake and divide it by 2. And then you don't, you eat it all. Now there is another way to look at this though. All right? So I'm just going to delete my half of, and I'm going to highlight a different word. And that word is of. All right? This is all important, Luke. That word of, you all know what it means, but you're probably not going to be able to tell me. Anyone know what the word of means in maths? Good, well done. Yeah, multiply. Do you remember when you went, when you started your multiplication? How do we say this without saying times? Because times means
Multiply.
2, 3.
Multiply.
2, 3.
2 multiplied by 3 is one way. But if I asked you to use these, what would you do?
2 on 3.
2?
Oh, 2 cubed.
No.
2 squared.
No. You stop, think, right? It's easy. You all know it. It's nothing difficult. It's what you did when you were in P4, I guess. All right? How would I lay out these counters to show me this? What would you do? It's not. How would I lay these out? Stop trying to give me a clever answer. Just tell me what I would do. Talia. You'll lose your language, don't you? You know what? You're just, there's one word with 4 letters in it that you're not using.
English, please.
3 piles of 2. Yeah, I get that. Or 2 piles of 3. I'm not asking for other one. I'm not this specifically. How would you do it? You would write either that. You'd do it like that, yeah? Or you would do, and what have I done? I have drawn either 3 lots of 2 or 2 lots of 3.
Either way, it's the same result.
So I would say lots of, you're saying groups of, right? But do you notice the word? The word of. So the other way to look at this, and this is super important for you guys as you move forward, how can I say a half of 14 then, Jai? Well done. 1/2 multiplied by 14 means the same thing, doesn't it? Yeah? So 14 divided by 2, or 1/2 multiplied by 14, or 14 multiplied by 1/2, gets you the same answer, doesn't it? Now, you would not believe how many students, even when they're in diploma, do not know how to do 1/2 times 14.
Wait, actually?
Oh, yeah. They don't know what it means.
Oh.
But as soon as I say, oh, well, what's 1/2 of 14? They'll tell me 7. But if I say, what's 1/2 multiplied by 14? No idea. All right?
Not even
It'll be the same thing.
You wouldn't believe how high level because they never have to do it. They always change it to something else. Now, the trouble with that is sometimes you'll see it written like this, and if you don't know what it means, that's why we are focusing so heavily on the language that's being used with us, so we know.
Learning some synonyms in your math.
Synonyms, there you go.
synonyms. They are different words.
I don't know what to do. I've got nothing I can do. If you need to, if you feel you need to. Right, x increased by 6. What did you write down, Milo?
X increased with x plus 6.
Okay, we happy? The next one is super interesting as well.
So would it be like the brackets around the x?
Oh, I know.
The brackets around the 7?
Okay, she's fudged it. Why did she fudge it? Because what I guess we were starting with was writing, who wrote this? Sorry. Who wanted to write this to start with? X times 7. Someone, you wanted to and you stopped yourself, didn't you? Which is good. What's the problem with that? It looks wrong, doesn't it? Like, what's actually happening there? What have I actually got? It's like, if you're going to communicate your maths, you can't write things that we don't really know what it is. So I think Eden looked at that and went, well, I kind of know that in algebra we cannot use the multiplication symbol and we can have brackets and, yeah? Is that what you were thinking? I like the thinking process. You've kind of tried to solve a problem, but there is another way.
Could you say 7x?
Mila! Alistair, what were you going to say? 7x, yeah? So 7x, can you appreciate now why? Now, can you also see why I do a curly x?
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like a multiplication. But this is a really nice way. You've solved your problem, haven't you, by, well, writing x times 7 is a bit awkward. It looks funny. So we're going to write 7 multiplied by x and not use the multiplication symbol. Okay? So 7x. Who did the 7x? Well done. Well done for you guys. All right. Number 7, the sum of q and 8. Talia, do you know? So Q. So Q plus, yeah.
Q plus 8.
Yeah, Q plus 8, yeah. Right. Sam, 6 squared. 6 with a little 2 up there, okay? That is exactly how I would write it. But just out of interest, what does that mean, Luke?
6 times 6.
Good, love it. 6 multiplied by 6 is another way, all right? Jack? What?
The next one.
Oh, right, you're already on to the next one. I was like, you've got something to say about 6 squared. Twice Q then. So twice is the word that we're looking at. Twice Q. So what does that mean then, Jack?
2.
So twice it means 2
And then Q.
and a Q. Because how do I get twice something? It's the same as 2 multiplied by Q. Doesn't look as messy because it's a Q and not an X, but we would still write 2Q. Well done. All right, so Nick, the product of 8 and 12. Good. 8 times 12. Can I just ask you something? You know, like when we do 2Q and we don't put the multiplication symbol, if I'm just going to write that as an expression, as an instruction, can I write this?
No. It looks like an 8.
Good. It looks like something different. So I can't do that. I can't forget the thing. Could I write this? I could write this, couldn't I? I could write 8 and the 12 in the brackets. No problem. We would know what we meant. And I often write this, especially when I'm using what type of numbers? Good. Remember we had negative numbers and I would keep my numbers in. And while I'm working things out, I quite often leave it in that form and just so I'm not writing extra symbols and things. So this is quite useful, but this is what we were looking for. 8 multiplied by 12. Okay, the quotient of 18 and n, then Marley, the quotient of 18 and n. It's divide, isn't it? So which way? Good. So should I write it like that? 18 divided by. Milo. N with a small 3 above it. And what does that mean?
N times 3. N times N times N.
Before you write that down, are they the same things? Are they equivalent things? How can I check?
No, I don't think so.
How can I check?
It's what equivalent.
Is n multiplied by 3? Because Milo did this, which is great. I asked him what it meant, so he said n times 3. And then Jai piped in with n times n times n. So I've asked, are they the same thing? Sam, what do you think?
N times 3 is not the same thing because it has to be N.
Could you give me an example that proves they're not the same thing? Nick, jump in.
Yeah.
Go on.
Like, let's say N is 2.
Good, yeah.
N is 2, so it would be 2 times 3, so that would be 6. And N, like, N cubed, so
If I did 2 times 2 times 2, the answer would be
8.
8. So they're not. Do you recognise this symbol?
Wait,
It's 6.
it's 6. 2
6.
times 2 times 2.
No, 2 times 2 is 4.
Oh,
times
yeah.
two is
Oh,
four.
yeah, yeah.
It's 2.
I forgot.
Do you recognise this symbol as well? I've put an equal sign and I've put a line through it.
No, I don't.
That means is not equal to. So it's not the same thing. So n times 3 and n times n times n, okay, we're saying are not necessarily the same thing. So All right, so this is the one with this one. Okay, right. What I would like you to do then, just for a couple of minutes, is for these ones, let's say you've got 2-3 minutes. Could you pick at least 2 of those? Using some of the language that you've seen in the previous ones, just write a couple of sentences and get one of us, Mr. Carboni or Mr. Shah, to check. And if we're happy that you've written something that makes sense, then you've passed and you can go home. No, not really home. No.
Go home to your next class.
Yeah, go home to your next class.
What if we don't want to go to our next class?
Don't go.
Serious?
Nice.
You get detention, though, don't you? There's always
Won't
consequences.
be a problem.
But have you written it down, Luke? Have you written your sentences? Anster's getting on with his, look, and you back yours away. Yeah, so like these ones, gave you this way is the other way around.
Are you just do that? Are you
Just
sure?
do that.
Are you sure? Right? You might. Are you aware that you might?
I might still be recording.
So you might have just posted that on YouTube.